Welcome in, everyone. Episode 2 of the UCLA Insider on SI podcast with your host, Tom Cavanaugh. Going to talk a lot about what happened the other day in Lincoln, Nebraska. A big upset victory for the Bruins. They move up to 3-5 on the year, taking a 27-20 win over the Cornhuskers. Huge day for Ethan Garbers through the air. Going to do a little bit of cleanup, just kind of recapping what happened in that game. I know we spoke about it a bit yesterday post-game. But we're going to get into Matt Rule's thoughts just in a moment from after the game. He gave a lot of credit to the coaching staff, to Garbers as well. We'll get into his quotes. And then we're also going to get into the outlook of the rest of this season. Only 4 games left for this Bruins team on the regular season, and they could play some extra football. If they're able to get together 3 wins in the last 4 games, I know that'd be quite a streak, winning 5 of your last 6, but I mean, there's still a chance they could be playing during the holidays. So we'll get into that as well. And then also, we're going to talk the basketball squad as well on the men's side. Mick Cronin's group, they're going to be kicking things off in the regular season. And that's going to be on Monday, November 4th, taking on Rider University, kind of looking at that matchup, looking at a few key players for the Bruins, a couple guys that should jump out on the screen on FS1 when that game goes live in Los Angeles. But first, we're going to get into Rules comments. Let's talk about it. First, I mean, he led off his press conference by saying, I think Deshaun Foster is doing a great job. Coach Eric Bieniemy, the OC, doing a lot of really good things. Ethan Garbers, the quarterback, came into the game hot, hurt us with his feet and his arm. So we're obviously disappointed. That was a tremendous missed opportunity for us. And it was. I mean, Nebraska was trying to get bowl eligible. They were 5-3 coming into the game, needed one more win to get that to that point. Now, they probably will at some point get to 6 wins, but it's not going to happen this past week. UCLA played one heck of a ball game, tape to tape, front to back. They led the entire contest, nearly squandered a 20-something point lead late. It was a 20 unanswered from the Cornhuskers in the second half to bring that to a 1-score game. And big shout out to Kalen Moore for that interception in the final seconds to put that game away and seal it, as Cornhuskers tried to put together a game-winning drive late. But you still got to give credit to the defense. They came up big in big spots. Garbers as well. We talked about him. 200 yards or so throwing. He had 2 touchdowns. He's been night and day a different quarterback from the first 5 games of his senior season. But got to hit on this coaching staff first. Got to talk about Eric Bieniemy in this offensive mind that he has. Professional, sophisticated mind. We mentioned what Matt Rule said pregame and or leading into the week, I should say. And he's recognized how professional that offense can be with Bieniemy at the helm of it, calling plays and really crafting up schemes and everything, because he's coached at the NFL level, obviously most notably with the Washington Commanders under Ron Rivera, under Andy Reid and the Chiefs, winning a couple Super Bowls over there. So Bieniemy knows ball like the best of them out there. He's got a ton of experience, and it was on display this past weekend against the Cornhuskers. And Deshaun Foster, I mean, give him credit for bringing Bieniemy on. I mean, both these guys in their first season with the Bruins program, and Deshaun, I mean, he had to really be frustrated, but also kind of understand that in a first year, putting together a group, it was going to be tough starting 1-5 on the year. They played 3 top 25 teams back-to-back weeks. They played LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. Unless you're an Ohio State type of team in this conference, coming out with a win against any of those schools is tough, especially in Oregon or a Penn State, who are in the upper echelon of the entire national rankings. So for them the Bruins to come through and pick up a couple wins against Rutgers, who's not the best team in the conference, but Nebraska, they're middle of the pack, and they were in a get-right spot. They lost back-to-back games. Now they've lost 3 in a row after falling to the Bruins, but I mean, huge credit to Deshaun Foster in his first season, being able to bring this program back and compete with a really storied Big Ten program in the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And that is not an easy environment to play in either. So for him to keep his cool, same thing with Bieniemy. I know he's very familiar with high-pressure situations, obviously. But they put quarterback Ethan Garbers in the best position to thrive. And we mentioned just a moment ago, night and day different quarterback in Ethan Garbers. I mean, if you look at his stats, the first 5 games, he threw 9 picks and 4 touchdown passes. I mean, it was not great from him. Over the last 2 games, both wins, 6 touchdown passes, over 600 yards throwing, and 0 turnovers, 0 interceptions. He's looked like a different player completely, and I think there's some confidence that goes into that as well. After they got over that win against Rutgers, he had a phenomenal game. Being able to take that into a bye week, really prepare for what the Cornhuskers were gonna bring on defense, and then come out and do darn near the same thing. I know he had 100 less passing yards and 2 less touchdowns than he did against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights a couple weeks ago, but still was very comfortable in the pocket, operated well, threw the ball accurately, and also scrambled on his feet. Part of what we read from what Rule said was he hurt us with his feet and his arm, and that's true. I mean, Garbers was the leading rusher for this team on Saturday night. He had 56 rushing yards, ripped off a 57-yarder. Obviously, that total came back due to sacks and stuff. But I mean, when Garbers got free, he was either going for a pylon on the sideline on a scramble when he was flooded out of the pocket, looking downfield as well to deliver some passes when he was flooded out, or he just took it up the gut and ran a few times. And that's where he got that 57-yarder from. So his growth over this season in his senior year, it's been exponential. And it's really good to see from a guy that struggled so heavily to start the year and has really found his footing and has a ton of confidence, not only in himself, his coaching staff, and the rest of his offense as well. Looking at the last 4 games of the season here for the UCLA Bruins, they don't play a ranked team yet, or left, I should say. They played 3 right off the bat in the middle of their season, early in the year, really. And I mean, when you look at the schedule, you got Iowa this week. They're 6-3. That's by record at this point in the year. That's the best team they're going to play. You got the Hawkeyes. Then you follow that up with the USC Trojans, who have really fallen off the boat. I mean, they've lost 4 of their last 5 games. They're now 1 game under 500 after their loss to Washington this past Saturday. And the Huskies of Washington is that very next opponent for the Bruins. So they'll go Iowa, USC, Washington, and then they'll finish up their regular season with Fresno State. Right now, the Bruins sit at 3-5. To be bowl eligible, you need to have 6 wins. I think there's a chance you see 3 wins somewhere within that 4-game span here if Garbers can continue to play the way that he has and this defense continues to bow up in big moments, because that's what they did against the Huskers. That's why they won the game. Obviously, Garbers was a huge piece of that as well, but a red zone stop and a game-sealing interception, I mean, what more can you ask for from your defense to get the job done? It's going to be tough this week against Iowa. I mean, this team they're sharp, especially when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they can't pass really well, but they do run some of the best in the in the entire conference. It's really Indiana, Ohio State, and Iowa that are in that top 3 when it comes to running the football by average of yards in the entire Big Ten. So it's going to be on the Bruins to stop that run. It's going to be on them to pass the ball. The updated stats after this Nebraska game came out showed that UCLA still ranks dead last in running the football, and they only were able to generate 85 yards of rushing offense against Nebraska, besides the Garbers' 56 yards. I mean, TJ Harden, Jalen Berger weren't really able to get anything going on the ground, and it's the only team in the Big Ten that averages under 100 yards on the ground, somewhere looming around the mid-70s currently. So Iowa, it's going to be tough, but USC, they're falling off. I know they got a great passing offense, but their defense has been pitiful. So I could really see a win against USC. Washington's a good team. Now that's going to be a battle. I'm leaning more towards a UCLA win in that game, but it's going to be a 1-score game regardless. And then you finish up with Fresno State. They're currently 5-4 right now. Obviously not in the Big Ten Conference, just finishing up with an in-state rival. That could also be a big win. That if the Bruins are at 5 wins, that's a must-win right there to get yourself bowl eligible. So I'm not saying there's a really great chance of it happening, but there definitely is after back-to-back wins against Rutgers and Nebraska. Puts you in the conversation to be able to get one of those lower bowls as a 6-win team. We just saw Minnesota. They pulled off a win. They're now bowl eligible for the first time in several years. Vanderbilt, they pulled off a big win against Auburn this year. They are now bowl eligible with 6 wins for the first time since 2018. So it can happen. These programs that have been down for several years and have not found much success, they're starting to come back up. A big part of that has been the transfer portal, NIL as well. Both of those contributing, and you're seeing it on the field here, keeping Garbers in UCLA. Getting a guy like Quasi Gilmer from Sierra Canyon High School. He's a true freshman, comes over, plays for the Bruins as well. Malika Matavo, senior tight end, keeping him around for several more years he's a 4-year player for the Bruins. So being able to have those guys and work them through the program and see them really progress throughout the season and get better, not only on the field, but mentally as well. The confidence is reeling throughout every single player on that team and also the coaching staff. So I'd like to see 3 wins come out of that, out of the 4 games. And even if they do lose to Iowa, it'd be pretty sweet to go on a 3-game win streak to finish out the season and become bowl eligible. Moving over to the basketball side of things on the men's side, head coach Mick Cronin, he'll get his regular season started with his guys after a disappointing 16-17 season last year. They went 500, 10-10 in the Pac-12, their final season in that conference. And now a fresh start, fresh slate coming out, starting in the Big Ten, going to be competing with a lot of the big boys in college basketball. I mean, you got the ACC and the Big Ten. I mean, those are your top 2. SEC starting to sneak in there as one of the upper echelon conferences for college basketball. And it's going to be a tough test for the Bruins this year. And they're going to get things started at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 10:30 on the East Coast over here against Rider University in L.A. Rider, they're playing out of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. That's the same conference as you see teams like Merrimack, St. Peter's who went on that run, Monmouth, some of these other schools that you'll see, they play over in that conference. That one of them makes the NCAA tournament once every year, so that's where some of them are familiar at. But Rider, similar situation. They were a 15-17 team last year in the MAAC. And it's going to be a good test for this UCLA Bruins team. They took down a Division II school by 36 points in their single exhibition game last week. And tomorrow on Monday, or today I should say Monday, they're going to be battling up against this Rider team. And there's a couple guys we got to watch for. Go over to our page, UCLA Bruins on SI. You can look that up anywhere on the internet, and you'll find our page. Head over to Aiden Champion, our very own Aiden Champion on Sports Illustrated, his article about 4 Bruins to watch in basketball season opener, and it's a good one. He mentioned 4 guys that we're going to briefly talk about real fast. A few transfers, few returners, and a lot of guys that are going to play pivotal pieces against powerhouse teams in this conference. Big Ten looking at Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, Michigan State. Michigan could be on the comeback as they have Dusty May as their new head coach. A lot of talent in this Big Ten conference. Bruins trying to stay in the mix and compete near the top of those standings. So we'll kick things off starting with Sky Clark. I mean, this is a guy that's already played at 2 different universities in his career. He's a current junior guard, likely going to be running the offense through Sky a lot. In the exhibition game, he had 17 points, was 3 of 3 from 3-point range. So we know he can shoot the ball and he facilitates well. He also had several assists as well in the game. But, I mean, he's one of 6 transfers that's coming over for Mick Cronin's group. So 3 of those guys, 3 of the transfers, we're only going to talk about Clark out of the transfers, but, I mean, they shined in the exhibition match. This is going to be a transfer-led team this season with a few other guys that are going to be playing big roles that are young returners. Also a freshman that we'll get to in a minute, and Trent Perry. He's a 4-star that came out, really, really good player. But Clark, he's going to be kind of the quarterback of this offense. He's a guy to watch out for on Monday and throughout the rest of the season because he can shoot the lights out while still facilitating and getting to the rim. Next guy is center Ade Mara. I mean, a 7'3" center. This guy is massive. Probably one of the biggest, rivaling what Zach Edey was doing for Purdue last year, and only averaging 9.5 minutes last year in his freshman season for Ade. He's out of Spain, Zaragoza, Spain. 6'7", 7'3", 240 center. I mean, just a big guy. He played in 28 games last year, averaged just about 3.5 points, so not a ton of production from him, but I'd expect, and so does Aiden Champion, our guy over here, a bigger and more effective season from him, just a bigger role that he's going to play for Mick Cronin this year. And in the Big Ten especially, paint presence and having size down low is so huge. Over the entire conference, you'll see almost every single team with a 7-footer that's on the floor for almost all 40 minutes of the game. So to have a guy like Ade Mara in the paint, being able to block shots, stand tall, take a charge every once in a while, and really command the paint, that's going to be big for the Bruins this year as they enter that new conference. Next man is Trent Perry. We already talked briefly about him. Came out of high school, ranked as the 4th player in the state of California. So he's a hometown guy, went to Harvard Westlake. He's out of Studio City, California, and he had a ton of offers, man. I mean, every Virginia, USC, UCLA, 38 different offers came through for Trent Perry this year. And he chose the Bruins. Mick Cronin did a really nice job recruiting him. He was a 4-star recruit, ranked 35th nationally overall, and a lot to like from Trent Perry. He was a 4-year letter winner over at Harvard Westlake in Los Angeles. He was the number 27 ranked prospect in high school, according to ESPN.com. And another guard that's going to kind of complement both Sky Clark, Dylan Andrews, a few of these forwards that could play a dual role. So it's Trent Perry. I mean, watch out for this kid to be a big player this year. I mean, it's always tough when freshmen enter into college basketball, especially in the Big Ten. It's very rare you see a guy jump out and have a really nice season in his first collegiate year. But Trent's got the ability to do that. Shoots the ball well. Only had a few points in that exhibition match. Clark, he got majority of the minutes running the offense. But Trent, I'm really excited to see what he can do this season, especially on Monday against a lesser opponent in Ryder. Obviously, they're going to have to compete against this team like they would in a March Madness game or a Pac-12 championship or now a Big Ten championship. But being able to take on an opponent where Perry will be able to see the difference, and fans too, and just viewers, see the difference between what Perry looks like against some of these mid-major collegiate teams. Finally, on our 4 players to watch from Sports Illustrated's own Aiden Champion, it's going to be Dylan Andrews. I mean, this guy had a pretty solid sophomore season. He's currently a junior, and he's going to complement both Sky Clark and the freshman Trent Perry in the front court of that offense, controlling the ball. So Dylan Andrews, he had just under 13 points per game last season. He started in 32 games over the course of his career. Should have a bigger role this season as well. Obviously, you bring the transfer Clark in, so that's going to drop the minutes a little bit. But I still like Dylan Andrews to be a good piece of this offense. I think because Mick Cronin, head coach, has already seen this guy for the last 2 years. He knows what he has in Andrews, and trusting in him to be able to not turn the ball over, shoot the ball well. He shot just over 40% from the field last year and 32% from three-point range. So the guy can put the ball in the bucket. He was a little less of a free throw shooter, shooting at just 77% from the free throw line. But I mean, he does not turn the ball over. He finds the open man for an assist. He's got 152 career assists. I mean, Dylan Andrews is going to be another pivotal piece controlling that offense. And on Monday, we're going to see what he can do. And it's going to be really intriguing to see Perry, Clark, and Andrews kind of circulate through and run that offense. So Mick Cronin's done a really nice job of balancing between some of the taller, bigger forwards and centers that you need for the Big Ten, adding Tyler Bilodeau from Oregon State. You got Adai Mara, as we already talked about. He's back at 7'3", 200 and some pounds. So, I mean, being able to have complementary pieces, two-dimensional, having the paint presence, but also 3 or 4 versatile guards that can make plays at all times, it's a big thing. And you can't forget about Kobe Johnson either. He's not on this list currently, but Kobe's the transfer from USC, and he had 11 assists, 8 points. 2 points away from a double-double in the exhibition game. He's going to be out for blood this season. I mean, he's going up against his old team in USC at some point during this season in the Big Ten. Both teams made the transfer over, and he's a heck of a ball player. Standing at 6'6", Kobe Johnson, he's another guy to watch out for on Monday. And it's going to be exciting to see these Bruins tip off to their regular season, get going with some warm-up games, if you will. Hopefully they're able to get it done and show why they're one of the better teams in the Big Ten and if they can be that. But it's going to be a good litmus test to see where this team stands over the course of the season. I want to give a huge thank you to everybody tuning in today. That is going to do it for episode 2 of the UCLA Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated with myself, Tom Cavanaugh. And you can follow us on social media. Go over to UCLA Insider on SI on Twitter and Facebook. And you can follow myself at TCAV30 on Twitter as well, or X.